Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, fellow dregs to society. Welcome, all you fellow rock dwellers. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And joining me today as my co-host is the doctor for the Republic, Dr. Right, Dr. Nasser Sheikh. Nasser, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hello, Rick. Hello, everyone out there. Glad to be here once again. And remember, it's just what? Another great day to be alive and well and free and living in the United States of America, the greatest country in the history of the world. What do you have behind you? The flag. What do we have behind us? The flag.
The flag.
What do I have wrapped around my neck? The flag.
You are a true American patriot, Nasser. You are a true American patriot.
As are you, Rick. As are you.
Well, there's so much coming down in the news. Apparently, the Mueller probe may be released very shortly, and everybody is waiting with bated breath on that one, Nasser.
Bated bad breath. What is this? Mueller? That's what they're doing. Remember, Ferris Mueller? This is Mueller's day. Mueller's 2 years of whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Where do we begin? I mean, with Mueller, the whole thing is to be spending the amount of money. I think they said in excess of now, it's gone nearly into the 20s.
Wow.
$20 million, I believe, is the last count. Somewhere, I mean, whether it's 10, 15, $20 million to perpetrate and to continue this Russian hoax. And as you've noticed now, look at what's happened in terms of all of the alt-left media, the mainstream media, what I call the Democratic Straight Party-controlled media. Look where there's a pivot. This is what they do. They attack. They put everybody, every cable, every news, Hollywood, academia, they all attack. And then once they find out that the attack is no longer useful, or their ammunition for the attacks that were lies and are now being proven to be lies, they say, you know what? We got to pivot our attack. And what are they going after now? Businesses of Donald Trump. Right. Businesses of Donald Trump's family and friends and accomplices. And what did they hand out? Like 80 subpoenas to these people. Some of them basically said, they gave them the middle finger and said, we're not doing anything. So again, what's going to happen is all those rabid liberals, those leftists, those Democrats that were waiting for that red meat, that there was going to be some collusion, obstruction charges against Donald Trump. When they find out that the Mueller probe comes out and there's nothing in there, boy, I'll tell you what, the left is going to have some damage control on their hands. But you know what? They're good at that.
The left is going to, they'll make up an excuse.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll say it's a great conspiracy, that
Mueller's
Donald
bad.
Trump paid them off, that
Yeah,
Donald Trump paid somebody off, that there's pages missing.
Yes.
Mueller wasn't allowed to investigate. They will definitely come up with some reason.
You are so correct.
Well,
you are
once
so
in a
correct.
while I am. I probably am on this one, but it's like the every once in a while a blind squirrel finds an acorn. We'll see if I'm right on this one, but I won't be. They'll make an excuse for it. I don't know exactly what the excuse will be, but the left will make up excuses.
But Rick, the scary thing about this is, yes, they're attacking the president, but you know what? The president obviously. The most powerful man in the world, and he's got a megaphone where he can attack these people. But you know who doesn't have that? You or I or Carter Page or Papadopoulos or whatever, right. Or Roger Stone. These guys, they are weaponizing. This is what the left is doing. They are weaponizing the DOJ, which I'm now calling the Department of Injustice, the DOIJ, the FBI, and the law enforcement agencies to go after, regular citizens too. In the middle of the night, SWAT teams, helicopters to get a 70 or 80-year-old man out of bed with guns loaded. I mean, this is unbelievable, but that's what's happened now. The weaponization in politics of, your law enforcement agencies, your drug enforcement agencies, and the FBI and DOJ. It's unbelievable, and every American should be scared, whether they're on the left or the right.
You know, Nasser, when you talk about the Roger Stones and all those named people, there was a lot of people that maybe aren't on the tip of people's tongues that was also hurt. And I'll mention my very good friend, a gentleman who used to be a co-host here on Conservative Commandos, a gentleman who used to be a guest here on Conservative Commandos at least once or twice a month, but that was J.D. Gordon. J.D. Gordon is a former military man, a former commander. He was the spokesman for Department of Defense under Gates, Secretary Gates, and Rumsfeld, while he was Donald Trump's national security advisor during the campaign. At one point, J.D. was at a reception, as was the Russian ambassador. J.D. was introduced to the Russian ambassador. They shook hands, and that was just about the extent of his contact with the Russians. Well, J.D. Gordon was subpoenaed, brought in, had to defend himself, had to get lawyers, has just about ruined his career. He was a Fox News contributor. He was a FoxNews.com contributor. Well, J.D. has had his entire life turned upside down because of this Mueller probe, and the only thing that he did was shake hands with the Russian ambassador at a public reception. That was it. That was it. And because of that, because he was also Donald Trump's national security advisor, as I mentioned, and he was also on Donald Trump's transition team for national security, he was drugged into this. Tens of thousands of dollars it cost him in legal fees. His life, I communicated with him this morning because I haven't heard from him for a while. And he says, Rick, it's ongoing. It'll probably be ongoing for another year or two. J.D. Gordon, and not Stone, not anyone else, but, just somebody who was doing the right thing, getting involved in making our country a better place, working with the Trump campaign, drug into it because he shook hands with the Russian ambassador at a public reception.
You're right, and that's what they're doing. They're ruining people's lives. Look what they did with the weaponizing of the IRS with Lois Lerner against conservatives.
Yes, absolutely. So, hopefully this probe is going to come out. Hopefully you're going to see nothing here. As I say, keep moving. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. But
it was an anal probe. This was an anal probe.
Yeah, I believe that in the end, the left
in
is
the
going
end?
to... In the end.
In the end, that's
right.
right.
Let's not go anywhere with that. But at the end of it, the liberals are going to say something like Trump squashed this, Mueller wasn't allowed to investigate, that there's more there, that there's pages missing. They will not let go of this. They are not going to let go of this. Nasser, let them not let go of it.
Absolutely.
Because I think the American people are just going to get, if they're not already, sick and tired of hearing about it and just tune out the left. That's what I'm hoping. Hey, Nasser, believe it or not, we are up against our first break, and we do need to take that break, come back and tell you all about our guests. And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dr. Wright, Dr. Nasser Sheikh, and yours truly, Rick Trader. Today's show, like all our shows, is being brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. Don't go away, Nasser, and I will be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share.
It's freedom from insurance.
At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down.
We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty
Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dr. Wright, Dr. Nasser Sheikh, and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcasts of our shows, please check out our website, ccrshow.com. There you'll find our radio show, our TV show, a lot of great articles, a lot of great information. And also, please don't forget to like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Nasser, once again, 3 great guests.
We do, Rick. Our first guest is going to be Tim Bryce. He's a freelance writer residing in Tampa, Florida, and he has his own blog called The Bryce is Right. And he's going to be talking to us about his article, Democracy versus the Republic. Mm-hmm. Do you know the difference? Mm-hmm. Great. It's going to be a great conversation. Our second guest is Amber Athey. She's a White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. She's going to be discussing about how a Reuters journalist, this is the first, withheld damaging info about Beto, the Irishman O'Rourke, until after the Senate race. So that's Amber Athey, our second guest. And our final guest is going to be, I believe it's Elad Hakim.
Elad Hakim, that's correct.
Elad Hakim. He's an attorney. His articles have been published widely in numerous publications, and he's actually going to be talking about with the recent unsealing of the court documents, John McCain's legacy has been forever tarnished. So that's up to the date stuff. Once again, Rick, you booked some great guests. So our listeners and viewers, are going to be up to speed on what's happening in the political arena.
Right. And well, Nasser, when we talk about bringing up to speed, I wanted to talk a little bit about a post that a Facebook friend of mine put up. And she said, is it any coincidence that right after Fox News suspends Judge Jeanine Pirro, that Fox News hires Donna Brazil and Paul Ryan? Well, I don't think that's such a coincidence. And when you understand a couple of things, and maybe you can connect the dots, if you will. One is Fox News is owned by the Fox Corporation.
Yes,
which
they are.
Is owned by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Disney bought Fox Corporation in 2018. And I think what you're seeing is a gradual transition of Fox more to the left of center.
I agree completely.
And I would not be surprised if you don't see a lot of the current Fox faces being replaced by more centrist, more leftist individuals.
I agree completely. I mean, I think the day of reckoning is going to come here pretty soon when the shows, for example, like, Tucker and Hannity and Laura. I mean,
Tucker Carlson's under attack.
Right now.
Right.
Sean was under attack previously. Laura's been under attack. And as long as the advertisers, stay with them, I think it might take a little bit, because money still plays a huge, huge part. Those shows are still the top three in the cable news universe or whatever. But you're right. That's what they're doing. The Murdoch brothers, I mean, his sons, they want to be a part of the New York crowd. They want to be going to the penthouse parties.
Indeed.
They want to be a part of that. They don't want to go and be a pariah.
Right.
So what are they going to be doing? You're exactly right. The shows are moving. I mean, look at some of the anchors, for example, Shepard Smith. You're the anchor of the show from the 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock position. And every single time we see your bias, we shouldn't be seeing that bias. We talk about that happening on the left and on MSNBC and CNN. Why shouldn't we attack it when we see it coming even from the right?
Yeah. Hey, Nasser, I have to ask you a favor. I got so many jobs here, recording the show, directing, producing, editing, and everything. I need you to move your microphone slightly to your one side, because it's right and down a little bit. It's right in the middle of your face there. Oops. Kind of flew off the radar screen. So maybe you can fix that, because it's right in your eye. And it looks like you have a patch over your eye or something like that.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that is better. Thank you for that. And also, Nasser, let's talk about the Hollywood elites. The Hollywood elites and how they use their money and their influence.
Have mercy. Is that what Jesse Kasopoulos is saying about Aunt Becky? And is this Fuller House or is this Fuller Outhouse?
Right.
I mean, what the heck is going on out there? Aunt Becky, please don't tell me that's what you did. You spent $500,000 to get your two bimbo daughters. I mean, did you see some of the posts that were coming online from her daughters? They were saying they got into school and they were just there to party.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're adding insult to injury or injury to insult, whatever you want to talk about. Once again, Country Club America has utilized their elitism, their hypocrisy, their money, their influence, their access, and they basically shoved it down the throats of what we call, flyover America. You think anybody from, Iowa or Idaho, if they had wanted to get their children into the University of Southern California or into Harvard or into Yale or any of these other schools, you think, what would they have done? Would they have traded some cows, or would they have bartered corn or wheat? What would they have done? It's unbelievable. And the thing is, these guys thought they were just going to get away with it, and that's exactly what happens. But eventually, you get caught. And now they're the laughing stock. But you know what's going to happen? They'll probably wear it as a badge of honor. I mean, everyone's...
They will, and if Republicans or conservatives had done the same thing, if they had used their influence and their money to get their kids into a prestigious school, there would be such an outrage. You know that, Nasser. There'd be such an outrage.
You're right. And initially, out of the 12 or 13 that have already been indicted or have been alleged, I love that word, alleged.
Alleged. It's only alleged if it's a liberal. If it's a conservative, where is the guillotine?
Right.
Bring out that hangman's noose.
Exactly. But this is what they said. They said all of them, except one, had contributed to Democrat parties, Democrat causes. And the amount of money that they had spent in that, was up to the limit of these guys. And so, again, it just goes to show you that this was, Hollywood hypocrisy.
Hollywood hypocrisy at its
rearing
worst.
Its ugly head.
Yeah.
Once again.
It's just like they say, we need to live in a world without walls. No walls, no borders. But when you check out their houses, there's gates and walls all around. They even have armed guards. They're protected by armed guards, but you and I can't have a gun. You and I can't have a gun. You and I can't protect ourselves. But it's the Hollywood elite. It's the double standard. Truly is the double standard.
And Rick, I'll submit to you, if I've got a few seconds here, is that you want to talk about walls? How about the institution of the walls of all of these elite colleges? I tell you that those walls are so high, so steep, they're so guarded that not one single person has ever been able to scale the walls of Yale, of Harvard, or whatever. You know why?
I have to disagree with you. We're just talking about the Hollywood elite scaling those walls with their money and their influence.
No. What I'm talking about is the institution itself has put up those walls. And you know what? Has anybody ever been able to sneak into Yale, go there for 4 years, and come out with a degree? Absolutely not. Yale has a wall around itself, and they only allow in the people that they want to allow in. And that's what all these elitist colleges do, too.
Again, I got to bring exception to that. Barack Obama supposedly went to Columbia, but no one remembers him there. So maybe he found a way to scale that wall, and maybe that's what he's doing these days. He's down there in Honduras telling people how to scale the wall. Hey, that's what we're here to do here, Nasser. We're here to speculate at the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And isn't it kind of nice that we're not hearing from him?
Oh, I don't miss him. I really don't miss him. I don't miss him. I don't miss Michelle. I don't miss... well, you never heard too much about the daughters other than when they were smoking pot at rock concerts. You never heard too much about them. But
that was cool. That was cool.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Barack didn't have a problem with that. After all, that was something that he freely admitted to doing. I have a video. Sometime I'll have to share it with you. I have a video of Barack Obama admitting that when he was a kid, he got into too many fights. He did a little too much drinking, and he consumed things that maybe weren't legal at the time. I wonder what he meant by that. Anyway, I don't know that he would have a problem if Malia and Sasha did those same things. That's another thing. Well, I'll say it, but then we're going to have to go to a break. This idea of 16-year-olds voting is crazy. I did some pretty dumb things when I was 16. I think everyone did some dumb things when they were 16. And the idea of these 16-year-olds who cannot pass a basic civics test should be allowed to vote, that's as stupid. That's as stupid as allowing illegals to vote.
Absolutely.
Which the left is pushing. But Nasser, we do need to take a break, and you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dr. Wright, Dr. Nasser Sheikh, and yours truly, Rick Trader. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Tim Bryce. He's a freelance writer. He's also a radio talk show host. He has a great blog and column, The Bryce is Right, and I love that name. We're going to be speaking about, do you know the difference between a republic and a democracy? This is why civics is so important. Most people, about 70%, do not. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our first guest.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share.
It's freedom from insurance.
At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down.
We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
Together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty Health Share.
This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I happen to be one of your hosts, Dr. Nasser Sheikh, and if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites at www.ccrsnetwork.com, and that's where you can get the version, the audio version, and at www.ccrshow.com, that's the video version where we're on the AUN TV broadcasting network in California. Also, please friend us and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And I'm so happy to welcome back one of our returning guests who's been with us many times before, Mr. Tim Bryce, who's a freelance writer, resides in the Tampa Bay area, Florida. He's discussed topics from everything about business and management to politics and morality, systems and technology. He's got a blog, which is a great name. It's called The Bryce is Right. It's read by many, many people worldwide. Tim has also been published in a wide range of publications, Washington Times to the Huffington Post. Tim, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Yeah, sir, it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, listen, we wanted to talk to you about the article you wrote, and it's so important, I think, that you wrote this, and there's been other articles in the past about something, democracy versus republic. And your question that you sort of premise this whole thing on is, do you know the difference? So give me a sense as to why you felt that, you wanted to write this article at this point in time, and then we'll get a little bit into the meat and potatoes of your article.
Well, what triggered it is last week the New York Times came out with an article saying the Electoral College represents the ultimate threat to democracy. And actually it does. It does represent a threat to democracy, but we don't live in a democracy. So I guess it doesn't really hurt anything. We live in a republic, and a lot of young people don't know the difference, and a lot of older people don't know it as well. And you hear the Democrats especially, and the media type saying, well, this is a threat to our democracy. No, guys, this is not a democracy, and I'm getting tired of having to repeat it. So I wrote this piece in here to educate people. Now, it's something very simple that, you Rick and myself all understand, but evidently it's not obvious to a lot of people. Democracy is really the rule of the people. It means that people vote on everything. And that's not feasible to do anything like that for obvious reasons. Even if you had sophisticated computer software, that would mean everybody would have to vote on, everybody would have to deliberate on every piece of legislation that comes down the pike. That's why we set up representatives. The representatives who, represent our state or our county or our district or whatever the case may be. We have representatives out there. So it's not a democracy. If anything, it's a representative democracy. But, we have another name for that. It's called a republic. You have a republic, if it's based on certain laws, as ours is, a constitution. So we live in what is called a constitutional republic. And like I said, I'm just tired of people not knowing the differences. And this is why you got a lot of young people out there clamoring to get rid of the Electoral College, is because they don't get it. They don't understand what this all means. I think the Electoral College is a brilliant idea. I've written about this before, which ultimately got me thrown off the Huffington Post. It's a true story.
You've been thrown out of better places, right, Tim?
Yeah, I've been thrown out of better places. Yeah, I can remember my editor came back and says, well, Tim, this is not right, what you're talking about. And I said, well, wait a second. Yes, this is right. Well, this is the point of the Electoral College, is to give equal representation to both the rural and metropolitan areas out there, thereby encouraging everybody to vote, not just the metropolitan areas, as an example. And, I run into this all the time. People just don't understand it. I guess, number one, I don't think they were paying attention in civics class back in the day. But more importantly, today, they don't have a civics class anymore. So it's a little bit discouraging to see that. So I wrote that. I've been writing a lot of some of these fundamental papers lately. I wrote another one on the differences between capitalism and socialism. And the young people don't understand that either. But this particular one was named at, the difference between democracy and a republic.
Well, Tim, how do you answer, let's say, the millennials when they say, well, it's just, Tim, it's just a word. I mean, democracy, republic, democracy. I mean, we know what that really, really means. I mean, what's the big difference here? Why are we playing semantics, with the words? How do you answer that question?
Well, that's obviously somebody who's never studied the Constitution. Fortunately, we have a new governor down here, Ron DeSantis, and what we're going to start doing is teaching the Constitution again back in history classes. Understand this, down here, I don't know about the rest of the country, but around our area here, American history is World War II to the present. God forbid we should talk about the Civil War, going back to the Declaration of Independence, or how the Constitution was coming about, Federalist Papers. That's why these people have no idea what any of that is all about. They have no clue whatsoever. American history, by the way, is World War I to the present, so I guess guys like Marco Polo and don't mean anything.
Well, listen, something that you brought up in your article that I think a lot of people probably don't know is that you talked about the DSA, and I don't mean the Direct Selling Association, the Democratic Socialists of America. It is now the largest socialist organization in the United States. Could you sort of give our listening audience and viewers an idea of who these people are?
Well, this is the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez people, and when I wrote the thing on capitalism versus socialism, I heard from people from over there in that party like that. And he says, well, what you're describing is the purest version of the socialists. We're not quite like that. We're not that bad or whatever. And I just rolled my eyes, sure. But these people really think that everything should be done by the individuals, that everybody should vote accordingly, should by popular vote and whatever. And my point in the other paper with the capitalism was under capitalism, you have basically three classes of people. You have an upper class, people who have been wildly successful. You have the middle class, and you have the lower class, the poor people. And it's the middle class, which is the economic engine for a country. Without a middle class, you got real problems. And that's why you got places like South Africa now, Vietnam, Belarus, and so on, all developing middle classes. All these great little communist countries, are all developing middle classes now because they understand the economic nature of things. Now, under socialism, you have two classes over there. You have the state and you have workers, and that's basically it. And I call that a master-slave relationship. And so there's big differences between the two out there. And again, nobody is talking about this in the schools. They don't teach them this type of stuff.
Now, do you feel that DeSantis is going to have, how would they sort of implement the process of going about changing, the programs in civics? Because obviously you've got a bureaucracy that has been entrenched in there, with the teachers' unions and everything else. And to get, I don't know, for example, Common Core, how long that sort of took to sort of, get entangled. Its web sort of, into the education policy down there. So how is it going to sort of untangle that and sort of do like, what is it? I can't believe I'm losing my mind on this. Hillsdale College, where they do teach a constitution. Every student has got to be somewhat proficient in there. Do you think it's going to be an easy job for DeSantis to fight through the bureaucracy and get something in corporate like you were talking about?
They're going to bring it down to the school board level, and I think our school board in our county is going to be very amenable to it. I don't foresee any problems on it at all. I had to learn the Constitution, too, when I was in high school, which is another lifetime ago. Declaration of Independence, all those kind of things. Remember, we had to memorize the preamble to the Constitution. We had to remember parts of the Declaration of Independence. We had to remember things of the Gettysburg Address. The what? What's that? People, we just don't have a sense of history anymore, and that's why we're running into a lot of these problems with young people today, and it's very frustrating. I don't envy the politicians of today. And what do you see the Democrats doing now? I mean, that's why they're going left, because they want to give away the store. They've always given away a lot of stuff, but now they want to give away everything. They have a free education, free communications. They want to change the Supreme Court. They want to get rid of the Electoral College. They want to rewrite the Constitution. They want to get the Constitution out of the way because they want control.
That's true. That's so true. Tim, we're coming up against a break, but we'd like to hold you off for another segment. Do you have time?
Sure.
Thank you. Well, folks, you're listening here to the Conservative Commandos radio show, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. I want to give a huge shout out to our listeners all across the United States and on our AUN TV and broadcasting network. We're going to take a few minutes here for some sponsor to pay some bills, and we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. So don't go away. We'll be right back with Tim Bryce.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Department, a Republican reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today. The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect. How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
People die and fall for the right time. It's too brutal.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share.
It's freedom from insurance.
At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down.
We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty Health Share.
This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dr. Wright, Dr. Nasser Sheikh, and yours truly, Rick Trader. Once again, for rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our website, ccrshow.com. You'll find our radio and TV show there. You'll also find a lot of great articles and information. Please like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Our guest this segment is Tim Bryce. He is a freelance writer, and he's the host of The Bryce is Right. He has also been published on a wide range range of publications, from the Washington Times to the Huffington Post. There's a world of difference between the two. Tim, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time. Well, Tim, there was a movie out there going back several years ago, and there was a terrific line in that movie. It was, "You had me at hello." Remember that? Well, your article had me in its first line. One of my pet peeves involving politics is when people mistake our form of government, democracy, but not a constitutional republic. Tim, give our audience one more time an idea of the difference between a democracy and that of a constitutional republic, as which we are.
Well, a democracy means that all of the populace votes on everything, not just for candidates. They vote on every article out there, which is not really feasible to do. I mean, we've got other lives we got to do. We either have endeavors, we have our own jobs we want to do. That's why we hire representatives to go out there and represent our interests. Yes, there's going to be some things that we're going to vote on. Let's say a referendum, as an example, maybe a constitutional change, to the state, bylaws or whatever. But most of the stuff is all done by our representatives down here, which, by the way, I'll give you an example. St. Petersburg down here, the city council, they decided to ban plastic straws, one of my favorite subjects. But they didn't consult the populace at all, nor did they offer any evidence that it was a real problem down here in St. Petersburg. But they did away with plastic straws down here, and it's all goofy. No, our constitutional republic is based on some sort of law. In our case, it is the Constitution. The republic, though, is, again, standing for representatives. And that's why we have representatives out there for Congress, both, in the House and in the Senate. By the way, there's an interesting thing there, Rick, you'll remember. Originally in our Constitution, remember, we never elected a senator.
Right. They were appointed.
That's right.
Were appointed.
Assemblies. And so as the state assembly's personality changed, the senator. I'd like to see you go back to that, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, I definitely would like to see changes there. My change would be term limits, but
absolutely.
Hey, Tim, I had heard the difference between a democracy and a republic used this way. Let's say back in the day, somebody was accused of stealing a horse. Well, what they do, they round up a posse. The posse goes, gets the guy, and what they want to do is right away, they vote, they want to hang this guy, all right? But when they capture him and bring him back for trial, well, then facts come into evidence.
Right.
And, I also look at a republic, a constitutional republic, is of law. We are a republic of laws.
Right.
And so then once the facts are brought into evidence, maybe not so fast. Maybe this person that the posse caught maybe wasn't really the perpetrator of the crime. I think an example of this is, remember the Boston Massacre? The crowd right away wanted to hang these 5 British soldiers that they accused of being involved in the Boston Massacre. But after a trial of law, these men were found not guilty. Interesting enough, and I'm sure you know this, Tim, and I'm sure Nasser does too, but the defense lawyer in that case was none other than John Adams. So I think your example and my example are great examples of the difference between a democracy where everybody votes on something and rule of laws or a constitution like we have in the republic. Tim,
There's one other thing to understand this. Most of the governments we have in the world are republics. I would ask, my liberal friends out there, show me a democracy out there. I can't think of one. I can't think of one out there at all. We're mostly republics, and that's going to blow their minds.
Well, even the word, the Democrats want to hijack this word. And even in calling themselves the Democratic Party, that is wrong, because it's not the Democratic Party. It is the Democrat Party. You look that up. It's the Democrat Party. It's not
That touched off a lot of arguments and so on with a lot of people out there, but you're absolutely right. And I'm very careful when I write things up like that. It's a very tempting thing to say, oh, yeah, the Democrats are going to do this and this, but the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. So you can easily slip into that, which is what they want. Mm-hmm. But democracy is, it's totally a fallacious concept here in this country.
It is, absolutely. And you and Nasser were also talking about the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. Well, it reminded me of another acronym, the DDR. Remember the DDR?
Oh, my gosh, that's been a while.
East Germany.
Right.
East Germany. So, if the Democrats want to align themselves with the DDR, let them. It's just, in my opinion, the Democrat Party is becoming the Socialist Party, which is just one step away from being the Communist Party anyway.
We have such naivety out there. It's kind of scary, and I read the New Green Deal when it came on out, and read the resolution, and not many people have read the resolution, but it's really a socialist manifesto. They have a couple things in there about, taking care of the environment and all that kind of stuff, but no, it's mostly in there in terms of expressing the need for socialism and how to set up a socialist society in our country. And people don't realize that. And I find it interesting, all of the presidential candidates are all on board for this thing. Oh, so you are a socialist, huh? You're recommending socialism is what you're doing.
And Tim Brace, another thing I was very glad you brought up in your column was about the Electoral College. And you write in your article, liberals believe... Sorry, right, Nasser? The liberals believe the Electoral College is a threat to democracy. In fact, there are 15 states now that have said that they will demand that their electors, members to the Electoral College, vote the way the populists have voted. So I think that in and of itself is more of a threat to the Republic than anything else. And Tim, once again, I'm going to ask you to explain to me and to our audience why the Electoral College is so important.
Well, it's sheer genius by our founding fathers, how they came about it, and it's based on a sense of history. These guys were no dummies when they wrote all this stuff. The type of background they had, they were well familiar with politics going back to the ancient Romans, the ancient Greeks, and so on, and they really studied this, and they came up with this idea about the Electoral College to give parity to, the rural areas as well as the rest of the country. Without the Electoral College, there's no need to go on out to Iowa, North Dakota, Wisconsin, any of those places out there. You're just going to go to New York, you're going to go to Boston, you're going to go to Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Miami. And if you win that, you won it all.
Yep, throwing California with that, and boy, you've got a something that can't be beat. Tim, one other thing I wanted to throw at you. There was a recent study by the Annenberg Public Policy Center. That study revealed only 1/3 of Americans could name the 3 branches of government. In my opinion, that's extremely scary. Oh, but there was one congressman out there, I think it was OAC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who said the 3 branches of government was the House, the Senate, and the president. And, this to me, and that's somebody with a college degree, supposedly in economics. But this just goes to show, and I think you bring it out in your article, and I know you and Nasser were talking about it, how ignorant, and I'm using the word ignorant because lack of knowledge, how ignorant people are about our Constitution, about our rule of laws, the Declaration of Independence, and our Bill of Rights.
I learned all of that, by the way, in 5th grade in Norwalk, Connecticut, when I was in elementary school, believe it or not. But anyway, this is why, Rick, your show is so important.
And yours.
Well, your show, and there's only a handful of people out there that I really go after out there. Another one is down here in WWBA and Jack Harris. You have over WFLA and KIT AM out in Yakima, Washington. But the rest of the country, there are a lot of people don't know what is going on out there. Chris Ingram has got a wonderful show down here, and he's fighting the good fight day after day out there. But we need more people like you, more people like this show to educate the country as to what's going on. Because you know what? They're not going to get it in the high schools.
No, they're not. They are absolutely not.
In fact,
Tim Bryce, we have to run.
Maybe you want to have a segment, every time, maybe like 5 minutes about, did you know this or that about the government?
I think, Tim, one of the things we're here for with the Conservative Commandos is education. And not just our audience, me. I always say my guests are my teacher. I am their student. But, Tim, we got to run, and I want you to tell our audience how they could follow your work and read your articles and listen to what you have to say.
Well, just do a search, a Google search for Tim Bryce, BRYCE, and you'll find me. But my regular blog area is Tim Bryce, TIMBRYCE.com. Simple as that.
All right.
Facebook, I'm all over the place. You can't miss me.
All right, Tim, again, thank you so much for joining us. Take care, and God bless.
Take care.
And you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dr. Wright, Dr. Nasser Sheikh, and yours truly, Rick Trader. Don't go away. On the other side, we're going to be talking about how a Reuters journalist withheld damaging information about Beto O'Rourke until after the Senate race. Don't go away. Nasser and I will be right back with our next guest, Amber Anthony. She's the White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. We will be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans.
The secret war is yours, free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled. It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share.
It's freedom from insurance.
At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down.
We're changing the way you're paying for healthcare.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for healthcare.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty Health Share.
This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
Welcome, everybody, and we're back on the Conservative Commandos radio show, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. I happen to be one of your co-hosts. My name is Dr. Nasser Sheikh, and on the other side, we've got our executive producer, Vic Trader. We're coming to you. Want to know that if you want to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, you can check out our websites at www.ccrshowNetwork.com or www.ccrsshow.com. Also, please like, follow us, and friend us on Facebook and on Twitter. Well, we've got our guest here. Her name is Amber Athey. She is a White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. She previously serves as the Daily Caller's media and breaking news editor. She was also a columnist for Catholic Vote. Prior to joining the Caller, Amber covered liberal bias and abuse on college campuses for campus reform. I love watching all those different videos that you guys did, especially when you used to change the questions around and ask them about one political person, and then you said, no, that's not the person who said it, was this person. Those were great to see the faces of those college kids out there. So great stuff out there. Amber is actually going to be talking to us about an article in terms of a Reuters journalist withheld damaging info about what I call Beto O'Rourke until after the Senate race. But before we get into that, Amber, tell our listening audience and our viewing audience out there, what is it like for you to be like for, the daily Washington House correspondence? What does a day look like for you? Start from, beginning of the morning to, the end of the day.
Sure. It varies every day depending on what's going on in the White House, of course. Today obviously was very busy because Trump was welcoming Brazilian President Bolsonaro to the White House. So there was a joint presser. My colleagues Sagar and Jetty attended that on our behalf today. And so we spent a couple of days this week just preparing questions in the event that he got called on, which he did. And he ended up getting 3 questions in. He asked about court packing in terms of the 2020 Democrats. He asked about Twitter censorship. And then he asked President Bolsonaro about the rise of socialism in the United States. All super relevant, newsworthy questions. He actually got attacked by CNN's Jim Acosta for asking about socialism. Acosta accused him of serving up a T-ball to President Bolsonaro. And he also mischaracterized his question. He didn't even get the question right. So just about what you can expect. Every time that we go into the briefing room or to a press conference, we expect that if we get a question, we're going to get pushback from the rest of the media, because our goal going in there is not to ask the same question that every single other reporter is asking. We want to provide a unique perspective to the news, and we want to ask questions that are of interest to our readers, and they tend to lean conservative. So when we go in there, that's what we're hoping to do. We're hoping to make news that is of interest to the people that are reading our content.
Well, that's the whole idea, is to ask those questions, to be somewhat maybe probing and provocative, but that's how you get the questions answered, unless, like you're saying, basically just lobbing softballs to people. Let's get back to this article that you wrote, and you basically say that Reuters bragged about Friday about its scoop that this Beto O'Rourke, who's sort of come out with some fanfare, but now he's sort of being looked at a little bit different. It wasn't all just fun and games in terms of his when he came out with some of his proposals early on, but he was involved in a notorious hacker group, and they basically, the author Joseph Menn, sat on the story. So let me get a perspective. As a journalist, what does a journalistic community, what do they sort of think about something like this, where you're sitting on a story that actually would have had great ramifications for the Senate race? Are they buying what Joseph is talking about, or are they just basically saying, no, he could have done it differently?
I've seen a lot of backlash from reporters who have said that if you have the information available and able to report it during an election, when this could, of course, potentially change the course of the election. Of course, Beto O'Rourke lost anyway, but his membership in the hacking group was obviously a damaging story. And the decision for the reporter to basically, he reached an agreement with the hacking group and with Beto that if he held on to this story after the election, he would have on-the-record confirmations and on-the-record interview with Beto O'Rourke. So instead of releasing what he had when it could have affected an election, he decided to hold it to a point where Beto was no longer supposed to be involved in politics. This reporter didn't think that Beto was going to be running for president, so he assumed that he would just be back to a private citizen when his membership in the hacking group didn't even matter anymore. So I saw a lot of journalists calling that out. Of course, CNN's Brian Stelter, who is less of a media critic and more of a media cover artist, decided to somewhat defend Joseph Menz, saying, well, he had a book deal, and sometimes when you're writing things for books, you'll hold on to some of the information and wait to publish it in your book, which is true. But when you're also operating as a journalist, you have to kind of consider what kind of implications that could have on making sure that the public has all of the necessary information to make an informed decision when they're voting on something as important as a Senate race.
I mean, this sort of reminds me of that picture that the mainstream media, what I call the alt-left media and the Democratic State Party controlled media, if you're familiar with the picture that's now circulating out there, which shows at that time candidate Barack Obama with Louis Farrakhan. And that picture was never shown. And they kept it hidden. And then all of a sudden now, after 2 election cycles, obviously they say, oh, here's that picture. So that picture was hidden. And that could have changed the votes of people at that point in time, because all that thing was going on with the Reverend Wright and all that happening. But give us an idea. I mean, when I read this article, I'm looking at this and going, the cult of the dead cow, the CDC. So give us, and what age was Irishman Beto O'Rourke? How old was he at this time?
He was in high school when he first joined this group, and this group is basically known as one of the most infamous hacking groups in the United States, just based on membership and the number of hacks that they've committed. And O'Rourke's role in this group was, he was basically a local leader in Texas, so he wasn't really in the upper echelons of the entire group, but when he was a part of it, what he did was he actually stole credit card numbers from people on the internet, and he used them in order to place free long-distance phone calls for himself. So he was racking up phone charges on other people's credit cards.
Nasser, that's credit card fraud.
It is, and he was also getting cracked software, which basically refers to things like video games that may have been reprogrammed to allow users to access content for free that they otherwise not would have had access to. So basically just a number of different fraudulent things, of stealing things, definitely not proper behavior, a lot of impropriety there, and things that I think voters would want to know, and that Beto O'Rourke should have had to clarify as part of his election.
Well, here's a question. I mean, now, as this story is going to start to sort of, have its own wheels and snowball effect, I mean, for some of these charges, are there any statute of limitations? I mean, you're talking about, possibly wire fraud. You're talking about interstate commerce, where you're using the telephone lines to do things, as, Rick on the other side basically, gasped when you talked about the credit card charges. Right, exactly.
Nasser, let me tell you why I gasped, because somebody got a hold of my credit card, my wife's credit card. They committed credit card fraud. I believe where we live, the penalty is 3 to 5 years in jail, $10,000 for each occurrence. I mean, that's really serious stuff. Now,
Absolutely.
what I was told in our local area, the statute of limitations was 3 years on this. So, but this is, and sorry for the people that can't see me for the makeup of our picture. I have my camera off, but this is. I'm sorry, Amber, but in my opinion, when I said, "Wow, I've heard a lot of things about Beto O'Rourke, but I haven't heard this." I mean, this I believe is as much story as the CDC, and we don't mean the Center for Disease Control. This cult of the dead cow. I mean, this is really serious stuff. This is a felony.
I'll tell you what, this also is going to tie into, and I'll let Amber finish up. We've got a minute going into our break. And by the way, Amber, we'd like to hold you over for another segment. Do you have the time?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, my lead-in is going to be with Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats and everyone talking about lowering the age down to 16 years because everybody at that point in time has sort of got the capacity to make decisions. Well, I think this plays perfectly into this format that if he was 17 at this time, people are going to say, oh, he was a teenager hacking, he was doing all that. No, you can't have it both ways. What is your feeling towards that?
Sure, I think that's true. It definitely demonstrates the double standard and how Democrats like to treat kids, depending on what they're accused of. And just to be clear, Reuters did say in their piece that the statute of limitations has expired on those things. But you're right, it is a very serious crime. I have had my credit card stolen multiple times. I've had my identity stolen.
Wow.
And the seriousness of what that does to a person, to their credit, taking the time away that they have to spend dealing with these types of issues, it can be absolutely devastating. So I don't think we should minimize this at all.
Well, we're speaking here with Amber Athey of the Daily Caller, and we're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, AM/FM 24/7, and on various stations around the United States. And we're also on the AUN TV Broadcasting Network in California. We're going to be right back in just a couple of minutes with my executive producer on the other side, who's got some questions he would like to ask with Amber as well. So we're going to take a couple of minutes break to feed our sponsors, and we'll go from there. Rick?
Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share. It's freedom from insurance. At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down. We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty
Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
And thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is the Doctor for the Republic, Dr. Nasser Sheikh. And our guest this segment is Amber Athey. She's the White House correspondent for the Daily Caller, and we're discussing an article that Amber wrote. Reuters journalist withheld damaging information about Beto O'Rourke until after the Senate race. Ashley, thank you so much for holding through that break. We do appreciate your time.
Sure, no problem.
I wanted to ask you your feelings about this, you also being a writer, that this Reuters author, Joseph Mann, agreed to hold this information about Beto O'Rourke being a member of this hackers group called a cult of the dead cow until after the election. It was the deal that he made with O'Rourke, I would assume, to get the interview. Do you think that in and of itself, Amber, is ethical?
That in and of itself, no, I don't think it's ethical. If he had the information to publish at the time, he should have. And that's where the contention comes in, and where he attempted to try to clarify this in some tweets, where he tried to say that he didn't have any sources to publish the fact that Beto O'Rourke was a member of this hacking group back during the Senate election. He claimed that he needed confirmation from the group. But my question is, if he had enough information to make a guess that Beto O'Rourke was this member, because this all hinged on the fact that the cult of the dead cow allegedly had a member of Congress who was a member of their group. Now, Joseph Mann looked into this, did some reporting, and eventually came to what he called a guess that Beto O'Rourke was this congressman. As you know, he used to represent a Texas district in Congress. So I want to know what information led him to that guess. Was it enough where he could have published the report, or did he really need an on-the-record confirmation from the group?
Has Beto O'Rourke admitted that he was a member of this group?
Yes, and the Reuters piece that came out by Joseph Mann contained that on-the-record interview. And in fact, he did basically chalk this up to a youthful indiscretion and even praise the group for their ability to be innovators, which is so silly because, as we were talking about before, the seriousness of credit card theft and of identity fraud and things like that are really, really damaging to people. And people will probably try to write this off saying, well, he was just trying to make some long-distance phone calls. It's no big deal. But it certainly is a very big deal for the people whose credit cards were stolen and had to deal with the fallout from that.
Amber, you said that you were a victim of identity theft and you've had your credit cards. I wonder how Beto, whatever it is, I wonder how he would feel if somebody stole his credit card information, if somebody screwed up his credit rating, if he had to jump through all the hoops, make all the phone calls, write all the letters, send out all the emails that it takes to straighten these things out. I wonder how funny he'd think he would be at that point, his youthful, I get so angry, his youthful indiscretion.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, when I was dealing with trying to regain control of my identity, it took me at least 4 or 5 full days off of work, making phone calls. I had to go in person to file a police report to prove to several of the companies that I was serious about the claims of fraud. I had to send faxes over to some of these companies. It took days for them to launch investigations before they finally found that I was not responsible for the charges. Luckily, I came out of it I found out that I was the victim very quickly, so I was able to resolve everything before my credit took a hit. But just the time that it took, the stress that I was under during this situation was so unbelievable. I would never wish this on anyone.
Hey, open your credit card statement as my wife and I did and find out somebody put $21,000 in fraudulent charges. I mean, thank God it turned out okay for us. We were made whole, but the shock of opening your credit card statement and seeing that, I mean, Amber, you mentioned something else in your article, and I'll read from it. Men's agreement with the CDC that prevented voters from learning about O'Rourke's hacking calls to mind NBC News' decision. Sorry, my kitty cat wants to get...
Oh, that's okay. My cat does the same thing.
NBC News' decision to sit on newsworthy information about then Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh in the fall of 2018. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I do. This was a pretty parallel scenario, in my opinion. It's a very cute cat.
It's a very big cat.
He's fed well. He's fed
well.
I
bet. So back during the Kavanaugh confirmation process, during his hearings, there was a woman who came forward with allegations of gang rape. Her name was Julie Swetnick. She was, of course, represented by celebrity porn lawyer Michael Avenatti. And she claimed that she had seen Kavanaugh and his friend Mark Judge at these various gang rape parties around the Montgomery County, Maryland area. Now, during that process, Avenatti claimed there was a second woman who could back up Julie Swetnick's story. Well, NBC News called this woman towards the end of September, early October, during the confirmation hearings, and she contradicted everything. She said that Avenatti had twisted her words, that she couldn't back up Swetnick's story. Now, you'd think that would be important information for evaluating the credibility of Swetnick's claim, and that NBC would want to send this out as quickly as possible. But they didn't even tell anyone that they had spoken to this supposed second woman until about 3 weeks later, after Kavanaugh had already been confirmed to the Supreme Court, when it basically didn't matter anymore. They could have saved him a whole lot of trouble when he was testifying about these charges in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and instead they sat on it. And you have to wonder, if Kavanaugh were not confirmed to the Supreme Court, if he were destroyed by these accusations, would they have even told anyone at all that they had ever even talked to this woman?
All right. That's the segment is Amber Anthony. She's a White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. Amber, I wanted to discuss something else you wrote about, and I think this is very timely also. President Trump rips into George Conway. Very surprising here. We know that Conway's wife, Kellyanne, is part of I wouldn't say the Trump cabinet. She's not a cabinet member, but she's very close to the president. Could you tell us a little bit about this latest brush up?
Yeah, it certainly puts Kellyanne in a very awkward situation. Yes. She's a senior advisor to the president. She was his campaign manager heading into his electoral victory in 2016. She was lauded as the first female to run a winning presidential campaign. And her husband is a vehement Trump hater, and he constantly tweets about it. He speaks publicly about his dislike for the president. And over the weekend, he was questioning the president's mental health, suggesting that he suffers from things like narcissistic personality disorder. The president responded. It was at least his second time responding to George Conway. He did another time in the fall, and he called him a total loser. And that was in response to Trump 2020 campaign manager Brad Parscale, saying that George Conway is just jealous of his wife because he actually wanted a spot in the Trump administration as well. So you have to imagine that that causes a lot of tension between Kellyanne and her husband. And I would imagine it's very disappointing that he constantly does things to undermine her career. I understand having political differences between spouses, but in order to publicly air that when your wife is such a prominent member of the administration, it just seems like it would cause major problems for their relationship.
Wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall in their kitchen?
No doubt.
Amber Anthony, we want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Conservative Commandos. We hope this is the first time of many. Could you please tell our audience how they could follow your work, read your articles, and find out more about the Daily Caller?
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter at Amber_Athey. You can find my work at dailycaller.com. And I also have Facebook and Instagram under the name Amber Athey.
Athey. Sorry if I mispronounced that early.
Not a problem.
That's one of my little personal flaws here in Conservative Commandos. But you, people like yourself, you're the stars here. That's why we ask you to come on. Amber Athey, again, thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Thanks for having me.
And you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is Dr. Nasser Sheikh, the doctor for the Republic. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our next guest.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
Elkins goes to vote for merit.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Hartman, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect. How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
People die and fall for the right time. It's stupid time.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share.
It's freedom from insurance.
At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down.
We're changing the way you're paying for health care.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for health care.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
And welcome, everybody. Welcome back. You're listening here and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show here on the Conservative Commandos radio network, coming to you around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's shows, please check out our websites, www.ccrsnetwork.com and www.ccrshow.com. Please also like, friend, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Well, as I said before, I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Nasser Sheikh. I've got my executive producer, Rick Trader, on the other side, and we're welcoming our guest, Elad Hakim, who is a writer and an attorney. His articles have been published in the Washington Examiner, the Daily Caller, the Federalist, the American Thinker, and other online publications. Elad, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Oh, great. Well, we're going to be reading about your article that you had written about that now that they've unsealed some of these court documents about what is going on, this sort of drips that have been occurring, the unsealed documents with Peter Strzok's, testimony and, the tweets that were going on before, and also Lisa Page, his paramour, so to speak, at that time. They were entangled in a love affair, so to speak. And you basically talked about something where now it's John McCain's legacy. And you're basically saying, has it been or has it now been forever tarnished? And this is something that I think all of us on the conservative side, as I speak, in that regard, they all talked about alleged. It's always this alleged, with the little hyphens and the asterisk by it or whatever. But anybody with a brain would have known that this was a silent coup d'etat that was occurring between the never-Trumpers, of which, John McCain was, probably because of what Donald Trump had said before about him being, captured and that they don't make, good, soldiers or whatever to, somewhat. And that probably ate at John McCain's craw. But give us an idea as to, this is a bombshell, obviously, because now it's been corroborated by the testimony. So give us a sense and idea as to what's going on.
Well, the gist of the article that I wrote, and again, thank you for having me on. The gist of the article I wrote was the result of the testimony that came out that was unsealed. And like you said before, I think that McCain, with all respect to the service that he did and that he gave to the country.
Absolutely.
I think that McCain was kind of red flagged by many conservatives to begin with, even before this testimony came out. But this testimony was kind of took things to the next level. People were questioning McCain's loyalty and questioning his legacy when he was one of the senators that voted against repealing Obamacare. And they were getting after him for that. And while I understand that, I don't necessarily construe that as being a legacy-breaking decision. That is a decision that he made as a senator, and that was perfectly legal to make. I mean, it was unpopular among Republicans, but it was still within his right as a senator. This information that came out with respect to the dossier was contrary to two things. One, you would think that a seasoned Navy vet of over 20 years, excuse me, that took an oath to the country and to the president, wouldn't forget about that oath once he leaves the Navy. So, he took an oath, and it seems like he kind of forgot about that oath once he left. He also had an oath as a senator to protect the Constitution and to be truthful.
Absolutely.
And you take these two oaths together, and then you look at them in light of what came out, in light of the fact that McCain initially denied everything. Then he subsequently indicated, yes, I got information about the dossier and then leaked it to the FBI, to James Comey. But I didn't leak it to anyone else. It turns out, though, that based on what came out recently, that might not be the case. It might be the case that not only did he leak it to Comey, but he also leaked it to BuzzFeed, and he leaked it to other sources, news and media outlets. And why is that so bad? It's bad because, one, he's a seasoned senator, and he knew that the information was uncorroborated. He even admitted to that fact. Two, like you pointed out, it's not exactly like he was a fan of Donald Trump's. He, it seems like he wouldn't have minded too much to do what he can or to do what he could to help push Donald Trump out of office or help facilitate that process. And in doing so, and assuming that what came out is true, this is devastating. It's devastating that a Republican senator, it's devastating no matter where you stand on the political aisle, but a Republican, or if some people want to call him an independent senator, was earmarked and used as a conduit to facilitate a dossier that was, now we know, absolutely false and uncorroborated, to help to try to destroy or to get rid of a sitting president. That's astounding. That is astounding.
Well, I think part of this story too is that we heard so many things at the time that McCain was actually in Canada at the time and somehow had heard that this dossier, and this is again the branding that the left and the alt-left and the Democratic State Party control me to use. It wasn't just a file or a document. They use words like dossier. And so everybody starts to think, oh, a dossier, that must mean something even more than a file or a document. But that he actually had his assistant, I go back here, I guess somebody on his staff, David Kramer, he called him on the phone, told him that I need you to get to England immediately and to get this file and document and get it to me as soon as possible. And it was him that originally said he didn't turn it over to BuzzFeed. Wasn't he the one that handed this over to Inspector Clouseau, James Comey?
You mean McCain?
McCain. Yes. McCain orchestrated this whole thing to get there, get the document, get it to me as soon as possible, and then he handed it to Comey himself. And Comey at the time, I don't know if he told McCain or not, but Comey had already seen this before.
Correct. That's what has been alleged, that Comey had seen it before, that McCain initially indicated that he had turned it over to the FBI, yet, if I recall correctly, denied that he turned it over to anyone else. And then it came out, no, he didn't only turn it over to the FBI, he also leaked it to certain media outlets. An uncorroborated, now false dossier based on, well, we know, we don't have to rehash everything, but based on warrants, etc., that didn't have any basis for it, and turned it over for the purpose, it seems like, to damage a president.
And now you wrote a little bit also about Meghan McCain. I can understand, she's the daughter and she's going to do everything that she can to, make sure that the legacy of her father, is not tarnished. But she comes out basically and says that my father is going to be more loved even more than, President Trump. And she made that statement on her show, The Rear View. Give us a sense of what you think. Should Meghan McCain, should she have sort of just kept quiet because she just sort of fanned the flames of this story even more?
That's a tough question because there's a personal, obviously familial aspect to this that frankly none of us can understand because none of us are experiencing it.
Correct.
So do I think she should have stayed quiet? I think that she's fine reminding people about her father and the fact that he was a vet. Do I think that she should have said the comment about being loved more? Yeah, I mean, he's going to be loved more by the Democrats because it seems that they're the ones that he was trying to help. So, I don't. It's not that I don't understand Meghan McCain, because I do from a family emotional standpoint, but I don't agree with the extent that she's taken things. And I think she came out and said something else today. I don't recall what it is that she said, but I think the back and forth should stop.
Hey, lad, we've got a few seconds left as we're going into a break. We'd love to hold you over for another segment. Do you have the time to do that?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, we are speaking here with Elad Hakim, who has written an article about John McCain's legacy and has it been forever tarnished. She's a writer and attorney. And we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM FM 24/7. We've got to take a quick break to have our sponsors do their stuff. We got to pay for a few bills. And our executive producer, Rick Trader's on the other side, waiting to ask some questions as well. So we're going to go into this break and take it away, Rick.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm your host, Rick Trader. My co-host today is Dr. Wright, the Doctor for the Republic, Dr. Nasser Sheikh. For rebroadcasts of our shows, please check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. New element there. You can see both our TV show and listen to our radio show, as well as check out some great articles and other great information. And our guest this segment is Elad Hakim. He's a writer and an attorney. His articles have been published in the Washington Examiner, Daily Caller, The Federalist, American Thinker, and other publications. Hakim, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time with us.
My pleasure.
Elad, I'm sorry. I messed that one. Elad, thank you for holding through that break.
That's all right.
We're discussing an article you wrote about John McCain's legacy has forever been tarnished. Elad, there was bad blood between McCain and Donald Trump, probably going back even before the primary season in 2016. I wasn't in favor of what Donald Trump said about John McCain. I didn't think he needed to go there. Let him be a hero. I think he was a hero. I certainly would not have wanted to go through the years of imprisonment as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He was brutalized. I can't imagine being in that position. But at the same time, I think John McCain handled all that very poorly. I think if he handled it differently, if he would have said to the American people, I did my job in the armed services, I'm proud of that. The time that I spent in a Vietnam prisoner of war camp, that was something else that I did for my country. I think by and large, that would have killed Donald Trump. But John McCain had a mean streak in him. You know, he fought back. And for a politician, I don't think that was very smart. And I just wanted to get your impression on how John McCain handled that.
I agree with you 100%. It's interesting. When I wrote my article, I was reading some excerpts about his time back in the military. And interestingly, you point out that he wasn't an angel. There was, and I'm literally speaking, he wasn't an angel. He had his moments in the military where he kind of went against the norm and went against the rules. And I think you're right. I think had he not gone back and forth with the president. And again, I also agree with what you said. I don't think the president should have said what he said, but I also don't think that McCain should have come out close to the time that he passed away and not invited the president to his funeral. So both of them didn't act in the manner in which they did. But with that said, and it's a big but, nothing justifies what McCain allegedly did here.
Well, what did McCain do? Do you see this as tantamount to treason, or was this just treason to a fellow Republican?
I don't know if it amounts to treason in the legal sense, and then I don't know enough of the facts. But I think that it seems to align with the whole coup argument. It's a senior Republican senator seems to have been working along with some of the Democrats in an effort to unseat a duly elected president. So you can call it what you want, but it's definitely not a way to leave a positive legacy.
I agree with you that. And I say this a lot, I appreciate having our guests like yourself on our show because I learn a lot, and I learned something here in your article. Senator John McCain and David Kramer, a McCain associate and former State Department employee, played a key role in spreading the famously debunked Steele dossier on Donald Trump's alleged collusion with Russia. And that McCain was responsible for releasing 33 of the 35 pages in that dossier. That was of news to me. And you also write in here and you remind our audience that McCain denied being the source of the leaks. to BuzzFeed when the published unverified document was released in January of 2017. Did not realize until I read your article how involved John McCain was in this mess. Now, what angers me about this mess, this dossier has led to this Mueller investigation that has tied up the country for the last 2 years or more, which has cost the American public millions and millions of dollars. That angers me. But it also angers me, and you talk about it in your article, and we need to remind our audience that John McCain wasn't a saint in many ways. Also, he now is responsible for us having Obamacare, which I believe most Americans would agree has been a disaster. But because of John McCain's vendetta against Donald Trump, we're stuck with this thing.
Correct. And mind you, it's one, Obamacare is different because he really had the deciding vote. But but with the dossier, I'm not even sure we know what we don't know as far as everyone that was involved yet. I mean, we're getting there and we're peeling the onion, but just pay attention. McCain is, not around anymore. He unfortunately passed away. And look what's happening now. Now that the Mueller investigation is seemingly for naught, it's debunked. Now they have the Judicial Committee, or the Democrats have now started to pursue a different avenue altogether. Why? Because they have more leeway going that route than they do by way of the Mueller investigation, which was really
what
limited.
avenue are you talking about?
They sent out 81 different document requests, trying to investigate everything under the sun. And because they have more leeway by way of that committee as opposed to the Mueller investigation, Mueller was really limited to Russia collusion. But now there's 81 document requests that were sent out. And now, I don't know if you heard, they're looking to investigate the spa owner that was involved with Robert Kraft's recent arrest. They want to start an investigation to see. That's
tie this into this Russian?
I don't know. I'm just telling you. I just heard that they want to start an investigation now to investigate the owner of the spa.
We were
because
worried.
I believe that she was with Donald Trump the day that Robert Kraft, at some function, the day that Kraft was allegedly at the spa. So this is how far we've come for grasping at straws to try to create a crime which would eventually cause or form the basis of impeachment proceedings. At the end of the day, that's what's going on.
Elad, we were warned about this. Let the Democrats get control of the House of Representatives, and it's just going to be an endless stream of investigations.
That's what's happening.
There's so many things that need to be done for this country. But the Democrats, these obstructionists, these never-Trumpers, are sacrificing the good of their country for their own political and personal agendas and vendettas. Unreal.
I agree with you, and I don't know if there's any word. I'd say shameful, but it's more than shameful. It's a disgrace, and slowly the American public is noticing. People are now beginning to notice, for example, that the Mueller investigation was a witch hunt. As more and more comes trickling out.
But you know what happens? I agree with you. It's a witch hunt. But once again, I'm going to bring up the name of Raymond Donovan. Do you remember Raymond Donovan? Raymond Donovan was a member of the Trump cabinet. Okay? He was accused. He was charged. He was drugged through a trial, and he was found not guilty. And I'll never forget what he said when he came out of the courtroom. Which office do I go to get my reputation back? Now, you may not like Donald Trump. A lot of people don't. A lot of people on the left. Obviously, there are a lot that do. But where do we go to get this 2 years back? Where do we go to get this wasted time, this wasted money back? I, as a taxpayer, want to know who is responsible because I want my share back.
Great question.
I mean,
I wish I
you're an attorney, you're a lawyer. Help me here, please. Let's file a class action suit.
I wouldn't take your case.
I'm serious. Let's file a class action suit to get back what of ours has been wasted.
That's a very interesting idea.
Elad, I wanted to go somewhere else before we say goodbye to you. You wrote in your article, McCain was a Vietnam vet who served in the Navy for 20 years. Federal law requires everyone who enlists in the armed forces of the United States to take the enlistment oath. Moreover, as a United States Senator, McCain had to take an oath of office. Do you feel he violated these oaths?
Based on what came out, and if we can assume it to be true, I do. I know he wasn't serving obviously he wasn't serving in the military at the time that this happened, but you would think that someone...
He was serving in the Senate?
He was serving in the Senate.
Yes.
But you would think, the main point of those two oaths, you would think that someone who has such a love of country would do what's right.
Yes.
And, to follow the Constitution, to defend the president, to be truthful. And if what came out is true and he was working directly to try to defeat or damage a sitting president, then yeah, I do. I think it starts to question the oaths that he took and whether they were sincere.
All right. Elad Hakim, we want to thank you for joining us here on Conservative Commandos. Please tell our audience how they could read your article and follow your work.
They can find me at Thoughtfully Conservative on Facebook or at on my blog, and then they can find me at Thoughtful GOP on Twitter.
Elad Hakim, again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you on Facebook, you and I being Facebook buddies there, and we'll have you back on as a guest.
Perfect. Looking forward. Thanks a lot, guys.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Elad.
And you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dr. Wright, Dr. Nasser Sheikh, and yours truly, Rick Trader. Don't go away. We will be back with more right after this break.
My healthcare costs were going to double this year.
Doubled.
It was down to healthcare or my student loans.
I found a better way.
It's neighbors helping neighbors.
Liberty Health Share.
It's freedom from insurance.
At Liberty Health Share, we support each other and keep health costs down.
We're changing the way you're paying for healthcare.
This is the way it should be.
We're all in this together.
We're changing the way you pay for healthcare.
The movement to help each other is growing.
Liberty Health Share. This is the way it should be.
This is how I make a difference.
Healthcare costs are skyrocketing. The third-party pay system is the culprit. It's taking money out of our pockets. Liberty Health Share has solved that issue by being self-pay patients sharing our medical bills. Liberty Health Share is a grassroots movement all across America where people are abandoning the insurance model and instead are meeting each other's costs in community with one another.
Well, Nasser, I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. We sure had a great show, and what made it a great show was our great guest. And I wanted to thank you. And please before you thank our guest, tell our audience how they could follow your work when you're not here at Conservative Commandos.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rick. They can follow me at Facebook at The Nasser Sheikh Show, The Nasser Sheikh Show. Or they can get a hold of me on my by email. I do answer emails. That's the Nasser Sheikh Show 1 at gmail.com, the Nasser Sheikh Show 1 at gmail.com, or just Twitter me at Nasser Sheikh Show. That's at Nasser Sheikh Show.
All right, thank our guest for us, please.
We will. Well, our very first guest was Tim Bryce. He's a freelance writer in the Tampa Bay area. He was talking to us about democracy versus the republic. Do you know the difference? And that's a great, just a great topic because, as you know, Rick, a lot of people just don't know the difference or just think it's a semantic on words. We also spoke with Amber Athey. She's a White House correspondent for the Daily Caller, and she was actually talking about how a Reuters journalist, so-called journalist, actually kept a big story about how Beta, the Irishman O'Rourke, was a part of a hacking group when he was in his teenage years. So that's really, really important. And finally, our last guest was Elad Hakim. He's a writer and attorney, and he was actually talking about now that some of the articles and some of the statements that were being redacted from us have now come to the light in terms of what happened with John McCain, and has his legacy become tarnished due to the fact that he basically shopped his dossier around to everybody, including the FBI. So again, Rick, you got 3 great guests, gave us so much information, and just educated us and everybody else out there.
All right, that's what we do here. But for right now, we are out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on TV and on radio.
Take care, everyone.